A man named James Peters, an astrobiologist, is approached by Dr. Julia Goldstein of the Pickman Corporation to be a part of a deep-sea expedition to what seems to be a portal they found at the bottom of the ocean in Antarctica. He agrees and they go to the Pickman headquarters to meet the rest of the dive team. It consists of Gordon Atkins, Christine Harris, Joe Meeker, Jed Pickman, and Hank O'Connell. Dr. O'Connell shows the team the new submarine he's developed that can withstand the pressure inside of the portal. Christine is apprehensive because she knows they sent vehicles in before that never came out. They share a last meal before the dive, but Christine is still nervous about the expedition. She thinks there's something they're not being told, and she's worried about not making it back to her son Sam. At the Antarctica base, they board the boat that takes them to the Providence submarine. They perform a final systems check and launch the submarine. Hank explains to Jim how to use the rover that he'll be exploring in. That's when Christine comes in to let them know that they've made it to the portal. As they enter the portal, Jed sees that there's some sort of leak below. There's some sort of turbulence and all the systems shut down and the Providence is still sinking. Joe goes to find Pinkman, who tells him, "We've found them." Then all the systems come back online. Headquarters informs the team that it's been 3 hours of radio silence and she's glad to hear from them. The team can't believe 3 hours have passed. But their life support system has decreased over 3 hours. Christine informs Dr. Goldstein what they're looking at. Then they see what seems to be a life form laying at the bottom. Dr. Goldstein informs James that she needs a tissue sample. Jim boards the rover and Christine tells him he's going to be all right. He nervously agrees. In the rover, Jim makes it to the creature and it's gigantic. While extracting the tissue sample of the creature, it moves. He says the sample is secure, but all the rover's systems have failed. Then the enormous life form awakens. Downstairs, a mysterious entity tells Pinkman this is what you wanted, an encounter with the gods. Is it as you remembered? Gordon wants to abort the mission, but Dr. Goldstein won't let them until they get that sample aboard. But they're losing control of the ship because they're too close to the creature. Christine had fallen into the pressure lock, but they didn't get her out in time. They have severe damage and the ship is taking on water. Hank is locked in the room that's taking on water, but Jed, instead of helping him, rambles on about the gods and lets him drown. Jim is finally back aboard the Providence and sees Christine in distress on the floor. He performs CPR and she comes back. The ship exits the portal, but they've taken on a lot of damage and water. They have 3 hours of life support left, and with the ship taking on more water, the longer they stay down, the heavier they'll get. Jed wants to isolate the sample in the lab, but Christine wants to put it in the pressure lock because they don't know what it is and it could be dangerous. While discussing what to do with the tissue sample, a large tentacle emerges from it. Christine, being the only marine biologist aboard, says we're locking up this lab, the science trip is over. Meanwhile, Joe is on a secret call with Dr. Goldstein with plans to get that sample to the surface at all costs. But Pickman heard the call. Pickman then enters the lab with the tissue sample, removes his clothes and rubs the ooze all over his body. Jim tells Christine that while he was out there, he heard his father's voice and that there's something going on out there that they don't understand. Gordon is trying to contact the control center when he starts to hear old recordings of the Peters Pickman expedition from when they were last down there. Then he's attacked from behind. As they rush to find out what happened, they run into Pickman, whose body was taken over by the creature, and he jumps into the pressure lock. Joe stops them from opening it because it will destroy the ship. Joe tells them Pickman got what he wanted. Now they have to bring the sample to the surface so they can get rich. Christine tells him the sample is dangerous, it's growing, and it's not just physical, it's taking control of our minds. Joe goes back to the lab to secure another sample of the monster's tissue. Jim and Christine make it to the bridge where they find that Gordon is possessed with the spirit of Jim's father. He then knocks Jim off the tier and begins destroying the ship, and they lose all communication. Joe shoots Gordon, then tells Christine the ship is going to the bottom of the ocean and he's leaving. She said, "You can't leave us down here," and then they fight. Christine chops his leg with the axe, then goes to the rover and tells James we're leaving. Christine gets into the rover and James goes to burn the sample so no one else can find it. Then he sees the same entity that Pickman saw. Back at the rover, Jim tells Christine that one of them has to stay behind to seal the pressure lock. That's when Joe attacks. They fight and Jim retrieves his gun and blows him away. He's able to close the pressure lock and Christine escapes. He then sees his father, who wants him to go to oblivion with him together. 2 days later, Christine is in the hospital and she blames Dr. Goldstein for what happened. Suddenly she has a bad pain in her abdomen and she remembers touching the ooze where the sample was. She begins screaming as the creature bursts through her belly. Then she starts to laugh uncontrollably as the creature takes over.